We ultimately don't know what Robert Mueller, special counsel, will currently find with regard to his investigation into Donald Trump. We all know he's looking into his business dealings, and, odds are he's going to find something because Donald Trump is a corrupt dude. But there's one area where we know Donald Trump is 100% guilty, and that is when it comes to war crimes against humanity, because he just did something that is completely unforgivable. So according to Sarah Lazer and Shireen Al-Adimi of In These Times, with little public attention, President Donald Trump used his August 13th signing statement for the $716 billion National Defense Authorization Act to override restrictions aimed at minimizing civilian deaths in the U.S.-Saudi war on Yemen. The move came just days after the Saudi-led coalition struck a school bus in Yemen's northern Sada province with a U.S.-supplied and manufactured bomb, killing 54 people, 44 of them children. The signing statement is the latest evidence that, after 3 years and tens of thousands killed, the Trump administration has no intention of curbing its role in the bloody war it inherited from Obama. The United States supplies arms, intelligence, and aerial refueling of Saudi and United Arab Emirates warplanes and gives political cover to the war. As In These Times previously reported, the 2019 NDAA's restrictions on the war were already insufficient when it reached Trump's desk, merely requiring increased transparency and vaguely defined verification that the coalition is attempting to minimize harm to civilians rather than ending the U.S. role in the Saudi-led war altogether. Yet, the measures were better than nothing, given the failure of Congress to end 3 years of U.S. participation in the war. But in one fell swoop, Trump dismissed roughly 50 statutes included in the NDAA, claiming that the provisions unconstitutionally tread on his executive authority. So I just want to pause there for a moment. As we get all of these stories about US-made bombs killing children, executing innocent civilian children in Yemen, a normal, rational human being would respond by saying, let's pull back on the war. At a minimum, we're going to implement a lot more stringent requirements with regard to the rules of engagement, so we might make sure this doesn't happen. But someone who actually has a brain would say, okay, enough is enough. It's time that we pull out. We can't let this happen. There's been, more than 1 million cases of cholera. Children are dying in Yemen. It's time we pull out. Trump didn't even do the bare minimum. In fact, he went in the opposite direction that he should have went in. He loosened the rules so the Saudi-led coalition can kill even more civilians with impunity. This is disgusting. And what was his excuse? He said that, these provisions unconstitutionally tread on his executive authority. Well, you know what? Fuck your executive authority. Your executive authority means nothing to the Yemeni children who are being bombed by the bombs that you gave to Saudi Arabia, you disgusting piece of human filth. And he campaigned as someone who was against war, who thought that our leaders were, quote, stupid for getting us involved in so many wars. And what is he doing? He's not only continuing the U.S. empire's wars, he's expanding it, and he's making sure that we can kill even more civilians with impunity. Disgusting. So, what specifically did Trump do away with regard to these provisions? Well, the article continues. Among Trump's targets is Section 1290, which stipulates that before greenlighting the refueling of warplanes, the Secretary of State must certify that Saudi Arabia and the UAE are minimizing harm to civilians, mitigating Yemen's humanitarian crisis, and trying to end the civil war. That provision was already weak, offering a waiver in cases of U.S. national security interests, which are often invoked by U.S. officials who misleadingly overstate Iran's influence in Yemen to justify intervention. Furthermore, the measure relied on Mike Pompeo to tell the truth when the U.S.-backed coalition already claims to be mitigating the humanitarian crisis and trying to end the war, despite overwhelming evidence otherwise. As limited as the provision is, Trump claims he doesn't have to comply. In his signing statement, he cites the president's executive constitutional authorities as commander-in-chief and as the sole representative of the nation in foreign affairs. Meanwhile, there is no question that the U.S.-backed coalition is exacerbating the humanitarian crisis with its new attack on the port city of Hodeida, a conduit for as much as 80% of Yemen's food and medicine imports, despite warnings that such an offensive would be catastrophic. Since it began on June 13th, the U.S.-Saudi coalition's assault on Hodeida has displaced more than 300,000 people and has killed residents with airstrikes such as an August 2nd attack on a fish market and hospital that took at least 40 civilian lives. Trump also sidesteps Section 1274, which requires the Defense Department to review the actions of the United States and Saudi-led coalition in Yemen for illegal conduct, but Trump declares in his signing statement that he reserves the right to withhold information that he determines could impair national security, foreign relations, law enforcement, or the performance of the president's constitutional duties. So, this is despicable. I don't have much to add. I think that this article and the news really just speaks for itself. Donald Trump is a war criminal, and the blood of innocence will forever stay in his hands. He's a criminal. There are no words for what a disgusting time we are living in. I can't describe it. The U.S. empire has gotten so morally bankrupt that we no longer even pretend to care about human rights and civilian casualties. We don't give a fuck about them. Trump is loosening the rules of warfare to make sure that they don't have to take as much precautions to save lives of innocents who are not involved in the war, who aren't rebels, who aren't fighting us. It's disgusting. And everyone should be outraged, but in order for that to happen, in order for us to nationally become conscious and aware of what's happening, the media's got to do their job, and it's just not happening. Independent media can talk about this every day. It doesn't matter. People tune in to mainstream media by and large, and if cable news isn't talking about it, nobody cares about it. And that's what's really heartbreaking about this story.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.